Hey everybody, welcome back to take two of this episode. This is Wicked Good Show. I am your co-host, Dylan. I am here with my other co-host, my friend, my amigo, my co-worker, my movie buddy, my pal, dare I say, my good friend, Brian. Brian, what's up?
Hey, you could even add Stuntman to that at this
Stuntman,
point, considering what we are reviewing today.
We are discussing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I am very excited for. Other than Avengers, this is probably the movie I've most been looking forward to talk to, most been looking forward to seeing all year.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to get into our thoughts in a little bit, but what makes me even a little more excited is that we have a guest today, our officially recurring guest, and he is officially on the first inaugural episode of Wicked Good Show. We are joined by Tamur. Hello, Tamur.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be the Margot Robbie of the group, and I'm very glad to be on the show.
Yes, yeah,
yes,
us
definitely.
too. You have a much better outlook on life than Brad Pitt and Leo does right here. I'm arguably an alcoholic, and Brian arguably killed his wife. So
right, I think those are both undeniable.
So in a little while, we're gonna get to talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But first, we had a couple trailers come out this week, which I think are probably two movies we're both going to see. It's two movies I'm pretty excited for. First up is a pretty interesting one because I kind of just completely forgot that this was even coming out, and that is The Irishman, which is directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Robert Downey Jr., Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
First thought is I'm pretty surprised that a movie of this caliber, not to knock other movies on Netflix, but with the star power and directing power of this movie, I'm surprised it's coming to Netflix. And then also, when I was watching it, I had a weird existential crisis about how they de-aged, oh my gosh, Robert De Niro, and how maybe we're never gonna lose the youth of actors just because they're gonna be perpetually de-aged forever, and then there's gonna be no need to hire any new actors. So other than that, I think it looks like a really good movie. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, no, well, kind of to your point, as we saw in Rogue One, what they did with Grand Moff Tarkin, even if you die, you can just come back.
He's straight up dead. So
I gotta be honest, De Niro might star in the reboot of The Godfather Part 2, Godfather the redo, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. No, I mean, it looks great. I'm very excited for it. As I said earlier, I kind of completely forgot this was even coming out because we heard about it a while ago.
Right.
2 or 3 years ago, and I really haven't heard anything about it since. And I was kind of surprised. Obviously, I don't really expect The Irishman to be hosting an event at Comic-Con, but I figured in that there was kind of just that week of trailers that weren't even at Comic-Con that were dropping, especially because we're getting close to fall, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for movie season, unfortunately for the good weather. But there was a talk as of right now, I'm on IMDb. It says it's coming out September 27th. I don't know how official that is because I don't even think it was in the trailer. But to be basically coming out in a month and a half, not have a trailer or a poster or anything was pretty surprising. But I saw the trailer. I loved it. I think De Niro looks pretty good. And I kind of hope / expect this to be an Oscar buzz type worthy movie. Tamur, what do you think?
Yeah, so I usually don't watch trailers, especially if I know I'm going to see the film. But with this one, I kind of scrolled through it just to sort of get a look because I anticipated us talking about it. And I mean, I feel like there's no way this is going to be bad. It's with all of the star power and the director, and I mean, even just the look of the film, it looks amazing. There's no way it's going to be bad. And I think it's also, it's definitely going to be nominated, which is to me is interesting because we were discussing this before the show, how Steven Spielberg really denounced streaming and specifically Netflix as far as Oscar contention, and this feels like the opposite of what he was talking about. I think he assumed Netflix was making lesser tier films, but clearly this is something that even if it wasn't funded by Netflix and produced by them, it would definitely be nominated. And yes, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of shifts people's perspective on what Netflix is capable of, and what kind of. I think people will take streaming more seriously as far as highbrow Hollywood or the Academy.
Yeah, I mean, we got our first taste of that last year with Roma. Alfonso
Mm.
Cuarón, in my opinion, top three directors in Hollywood right now. It was a movie that for sure was not for everyone, especially not really like the casual moviegoer. But as a whole, it was one of the more beautifully shot films I've seen in a while. And I was actually I was expecting it to win Best Picture because it just seemed like a prototypical Best Picture movie.
Right.
But yeah, the other interesting about this too is that The Irishman is going to be seen, like people are going to probably see this movie that otherwise never would have went to the movie theater to go see a Martin Scorsese movie.
Mhm.
Um, to kind of throw that term out there again, casual moviegoer, which it kind of sounds pompous, but like there are many of those that will go and see something like Hobbs and Shaw and Avengers, which are obviously Avengers we loved. Hobbs and Shaw, I guess we'll see. I'm gonna force myself to go see that, but movies like this, which is kind of beautiful. It also has a $200 million budget,
Mhm.
which I guess this was Martin Scorsese's passion project, and I think this is the first movie he's done since I don't even remember the name of it. The one with Adam Driver
Was the
and
Silence?
Silence. Yes,
Yeah.
this is his first movie since then. And apparently, this is a movie he's been wanting to make for a while.
Mhm.
The premise is a mob hitman recalls his possible involvement with the slaying of Jimmy Hoffa, which Jimmy Hoffa, there's pretty much like our parents' generation, maybe even the generation before them. Jimmy Hoffa was like the big that was the big to do where
Mhm.
Jimmy Hoffa was. Was he buried on a giant stadium? Or was he buried in cement under your house? You didn't know.
Right.
It's a super interesting story, and you have this cast. I mean, I'm really excited. Like something about it, and I think it's just really the build up to it. Something about it makes me slightly nervous, and it could just be that stigma that it's a Netflix movie. Because other than maybe two or three movies, we've gotten like some really bad movies on Netflix.
Mhm.
Which on one side, it's great to have a lot of original content, but on the other side, they have made some stinkers,
Mhm.
for sure. But to Tamor's point, I'm really hoping this is the movie that kind of turns that notion that Netflix isn't a powerhouse when it comes to. I guess they're a powerhouse studio, though. I think they buy up some movies that are made independently, but
Mhm.
that they can be put up there with somebody well, actually Fox now Disney's, but I guess like Disney, Sony,
Yeah.
uh, Paramount, stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be interesting. Obviously, we're gonna see it. We're gonna review it. And like, I'm
Right.
more than confident it's probably gonna be good. But
Mhm.
it's interesting. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I guess my question for you guys is: are you going to see it in theaters, considering it's basically free for us to watch on our TVs?
Probably not.
So I have we have AMC A list,
Mm-hmm.
so it's basically the same thing for me, other than like they gas to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
I am a sucker for movies in movie theaters. I will say just the environment as a whole, just being able to see it on the big screen, I do like. But also it's tough. Like if this movie drops on midnight the night it comes out, and I'm like wide awake. It's tough not to just sit there and just put it on.
Right.
I guess especially with the technology nowadays too, with some of the sound. Certainly not me, but some of the sound systems and home theaters people have. It's they could experience it better in different ways than you would in a movie theater. But personally, I don't think you can beat the movie theater experience. But I know for sure there's a lot of people. Shout out Brian Wong that hate going to the movie theaters, hate the crowds, hate all that. So this is for people like him, which I do think there's a lot of people that will much rather watch this at home.
Yeah, and I can definitely respect that movie theaters can be terrible. I mean, for me, it's personally like the audiences can be really annoying and terrible, and like laugh at weird moments that, in my mind, aren't even funny and just distracting. I don't know, but the other thing with this movie is just that and this is the same feeling I had seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood today, which is like you don't get that many films in theaters by these big directors that we love, like Scorsese and Tarantino. Tarantino is supposedly only going to make 10 films, so we only have one more that
Yep.
we're actually going to be able to see in theaters. And I feel like it's a similar thing with The Irishman, where he's getting up there in age. Who knows how many more films he'll make, let alone release in theaters, if this is like the future of movie making, where we just like release it online. Um, so I mean, I will most likely see it, but it will be hard to resist, just like turning on my TV and being like, yeah, there we go.
Kind of to your point too. I think really with somebody like Martin Scorsese, Tarantino's another great example. Although I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was Tarantino's highest grossing movie at the box office so far, or his biggest opening weekend. I think it was. I think when you go to a movie like this with the Scorsese fans, the Tarantino fans, I think you have a lot more people going for the appreciation of like the actual filmmaking rather than just like the blockbuster itself, which
Hmm.
I can appreciate, but it's also tough because like I drool over things like like Marvel movies or superhero movies. Um, but on the other side, I do like going to a theater with people that actually appreciate more than just the action, and we'll get into it once upon a time in Hollywood,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
really quick, just to so I just saw the film today, and I will say that during, without spoiling, during like one of the big moments, I think you guys know, like the craziest moment in the movie, there was a fucking guy in the audience like yelling, like legit, just like ah, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was completely distracting, and I was just like, okay, I'm like a little bit concerned. Is this guy like a psycho? So yeah, I'm sure you have like, people who appreciate the films, but there's also annoying people as well.
oh man, you're almost a weekend, so once you get a
Yeah,
weekend,
that's true.
you get a lot of wild cards going to these things.
That's a good point.
You get a lot of people that walked into the wrong theater when it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so it's something kind of to the point as a whole. It's something that I would hate. But somebody like Spielberg said that even if it came out on Netflix, that a movie that would be like The Irishman, which all indications that it's gonna be a great movie, it's gonna be well put together, and it's gonna be well acted. It doesn't make sense to exclude a movie like that from the Academy Awards just because it's streaming, and it's reaching a wider audience. So if somebody like Spielberg, who produces a lot of movies, it seems like that's almost an argument that's more worried about money rather than the actual movie going experience itself. So that's a stigma that a movie like this hopefully just kills. Um, but like I said, you can't beat a theater going experience. So maybe I'll double dip. Maybe I'll double dip, and I'll do a little comparison, and I'll write it on the blog.
Yeah.
Um, all right, next up, the next trailer that released this week that I'm actually pretty excited for too, because The Witch was one of the scariest yet more interesting movies I've seen in a while. The Lighthouse, starring Robert Pattinson and my boy Willem Dafoe, directed by Robert Eggers, who directed The Witch, as I just mentioned. The trailer dropped this week. It is a story about two lighthouse keepers on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. So right away, also obviously you've seen the trailer. It's black and white, so it's super interesting. But the movie seems trippy, to say the least. I'm pretty sure at one point we have Robert Pattinson fighting an octopus, and it could have been a dream sequence, but fighting an octopus black and white, and apparently this the role that got Pattinson Batman. So like I'm all in, and I like Pattinson before the whole Batman casting anyway. But Tamur, what do you think? This definitely is going to be an interesting film to talk about.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna see this. I feel like it's the kind of film that's hard to make a trailer of without like really spoiling it too much, and it's also the kind of thing it's hard for, I think, for someone to grasp if they're just like making a trailer of this like weird movie, like really artsy thing. Obviously, killer cast. Love both those actors. I wasn't on your guys' podcast, so we talked about Pattinson, but I totally two thumbs up for him being Batman. I think he's totally a capable actor and has proved that multiple times. But yeah, as far as this movie, the cinematography looks beautiful. I'm definitely going to see it.
And for anyone that saw The Witch, they know that Robert Eggers' way of filmmaking is the tension, and like it's like gut wrenching tension is the only way to really describe the Witch for me. It both scared the shit out of me, but I was also like entranced by what was going on. In The Lighthouse, it seems like it's just gonna be a fucking wild movie. I think it's already aired at a few festivals, and I think it's been getting pretty decent reviews. It's sitting up with an 8.2 in IMDb right now with about 500 reviews, which isn't awful. So it's a movie. It's kind of like Midsummer, Midsommar, where you're gonna get the crowd that loves the director, like I did with Ari Aster and Midsommar, but you're also gonna get the crowd that drifts in about a weekend casually, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what is going on right now?" Which I'm down for that. Brian, what do you think? What did you think about the trailer?
So Lighthouse, I think, is really interesting. I think that it kind of seems to be like made stylistically like kind of old films were, which has always been something that's interested me in. Like, what if you just like made a film in the style of how they like used to make movies in like the 50s or 60s, you know, like the black and white old school ones. So that could be interesting. Obviously, Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe are two very talented actors. So I don't know, could be good. It's, you know, it's obviously a little vague as to what the plot is in the trailer, but you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, kind of to my point earlier, like originality, like original movies,
Mm.
good or bad. I'm here for. I'm here to. I love the superhero genre. I'm a sucker, and I drool over some of the remakes, but I'm all for originality, and this definitely seems to be that.
Right.
All right, baby. Let's get into it. We've had a lot of technical difficulties. It's been an uphill battle, but we're here. We made it. Let's do Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, let's do it.
So
So this is going to be spoiler free, then spoiler?
yeah, we can do a quick spoiler free. It's tough to do a spoiler
Yeah.
quick one.
No, I know. We'll do like 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood obviously came out last Thursday. Starring Leo, directed by Quentin Tarantino, also starring Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie. A faded television actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969. Tamur, you're our guest. You're fresh off of seeing it. I would love to get your spoiler-free take first.
Sure. I do feel like this is a tough one to talk about spoiler free, just because the ending is so like important as to putting the whole film together. But that kind of connects to my sort of general feeling about it, which is that a lot of it just felt disconnected, especially for like a Tarantino film. It feels pretty different from what he's done before in a way where it felt like it was trying to be a kind of a, I mean, maybe it's because that's what he's trying to capture, is the Hollywood era, but it felt like a Hollywood movie in essence that kind of didn't have a solid story throughout until you kind of reach the ending, and then you kind of realize, oh, this is what it's been leading up to.
Mm-hmm.
And you, without any spoilers, you realize this is kind of, in my mind, Tarantino, how do I say this without spoiling it, rewriting history in a similar way that he does in Inglourious Basterds, in a kind of a very like selfish way, which obviously he's allowed to do because he's an artist and he's Tarantino and all of the, you know, various reasons. But yeah, I just like Dylan mentioned, I just watched it like 2 hours ago, so I'm still kind of digesting it. But I'm curious what you guys thought. Brian, you saw it twice, right?
Yeah, Dylan did too. We both have seen it two times so far. Yeah, I saw it Monday and Tuesday. I liked it quite a bit. I think this is a movie that probably only Quentin Tarantino has the clout to make.
Yeah, no doubt.
In terms of it is a slow movie. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It's very heavy on character. I think it has a really great like dynamic, like a buddy dynamic in it. Maybe more than like any film I've seen, probably, where I really felt like these two guys were just like bros. And that says a lot to like the chemistry and the character for those two actors. But I think that it is going to be like the quintessential example in writing classes when a teacher says that plot is only important if you have compelling characters, and if you have compelling characters, you can still have a compelling story without a driving plot. In my opinion, that's what I thought. Dylan, what do you think?
I I love this movie.
Mhm.
Hollywood as a whole has always really intrigued me, and it's kind of been the even more so than something like sports. Like Hollywood as a whole has
Mhm.
just always been something I've really enjoyed following and watching movies, things like that.
Right.
As we talk the Oscars, I love. This movie first and foremost is a movie about Hollywood, kind
Mhm.
of like what Tamura said. This is kind of Tarantino's love letter to old time Hollywood, and I mean I was really here for it. I thought Leo gave his best acting performance of his career.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think The Revenant, which he won the award for, was a good movie with a really good performance by Leo. But I mean, he kind of like blew me away in this movie. I
Yeah.
give it a 97 out of 100. Like
Mhm.
I've seen it twice now, and I absolutely am just in love with this movie. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it,
Mhm.
honestly. I think Brad Pitt turns in one of his best performances. Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth are two of the more complex but interesting characters Tarantino's done,
Right.
just in terms of originality. Other than that, with I forget the character in Inglorious Bastards. I forget the name
The
of
main character, Aldo.
of no, not Aldo. I'm drawing a blank right now on his name.
The German?
The German the German the guy that hunts the Jews. I thought that was arguably one of his better characters in a movie.
Mhm.
I think acting had a lot to do with it, but Leo and Brad Pitt in this movie, like the combination of their acting and their characters, kind of really just blew me away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kind of to Swar's point, there's really like up until the final half hour, there's really on the face of it, there's no story.
Mhm.
Um, this is really a movie about a day in the life of an actor and his stunt double
Mhm.
first and foremost. And I guess the story is really Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth dealing with their careers changing, with Hollywood changing,
Mhm.
and I was here for it. I thought it was great. I think Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. Um, we'll get into it in the spoilers because it's really impossible to fully talk about the movie. But
Mhm.
I thought she was great as Sharon Tate with the maybe 10 lines she had.
Mhm.
Um, I think just her personality just fit everything they were going for, just trying to show the person Sharon Tate was, and just to
Mhm.
show that she was more than a murder victim. She was just a real person who was like full of life.
Mhm.
And on the opposite end, Rick Dalton was somebody that was down and out in Hollywood, and he was kind of giving up. And
Mhm.
his stunt double on the other end was somebody that has embraced what change they're going through.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I loved it. I've seen it twice. I'm seeing it for a third time. It's really tough not to get lured in by recency bias and the fact that Tarantino just has me by the balls
Mhm.
with pretty much everything he makes. But I really like this movie to the point where I ended up revising a lot of my movie scores as I talked to you about with you guys earlier.
Mhm.
Like I give it a 97 out of 100, but I also think this is maybe the best movie I've seen in like 5 years. I'm just in love with this movie, and I totally understand it's divisive and not for everyone, and I can't even argue the other side.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, certainly not for everyone. I have seen it firsthand.
yeah,
Right.
but
I'm sure.
there's three people for this movie. There's people that absolutely hate it. There's
Mhm.
people that think it's a good, not great movie, and there's people kind of on my side that think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And
Mhm.
I honestly may be in the minority, but like I said, I'm blown away. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. Should we go into spoiler territory?
Let's do it. Let's do it, baby. Spoiler territory.
All right, everybody. From this point on,
Um,
we're spoiling the shit out of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
guy in the motorcycle.
Yeah,
Jump off right
just
now.
it's not. Yeah. Oh
Um,
man.
Brian, kick it off, baby. Spoilers.
So yeah, this, like Tamor alluded to, is a revenge fantasy film. Kind of taking revenge for, a Hollywood star that was murdered brutally. So he portrayed her murderers getting murdered pretty much as brutally as possible, which was a very interesting route to go, and one that I did kind of suspect after Inglourious Bastards, but if you're not like familiar with his work, you may have been surprised.
Well, it was actually spoiled for me.
Oh
I was like, yeah, it's kind
no.
of sucks. I was out to lunch with some people who work at my company, and
Mm.
they spoiled it, unfortunately. But it didn't detract from the shock and the sheer like force of the scene. It's so brutal, but it's so like conflicting as well because you're watching this and you're like, these are characters who are playing people who really did murder, a pregnant woman and
Mm.
murdered a bunch of people and
Three of
probably
her
did
friends, and
other.
then like a few others after that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
not good
It's like,
people.
yeah, exactly. It's like here are these brutal, this brutal murder scene,
Mm.
but kind of in a sick way, just it's justified, at least, in like Tarantino's eyes, and it's kind of him, as I talked about in the pre-spoiler part, it's him, yeah, just getting his revenge in like the only way, in an only how like Tarantino could. Like he
Mm.
makes an amazing 2 hour film, and then just puts the fucking period at the end with like, yeah, and then they actually lived happily ever after in my universe,
Yeah, it's
because
a
the
fairy
bad
tale.
guys like got killed.
That's why it's called Once Upon a Time in
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah.
I
Dylan, what do you
kind of
think?
an argument I make in favor of his decision is I don't really don't think this movie gets made if this is a Manson family Sharon Tate murder movie.
Mm.
Yeah.
I really I guess at first the Tate estate was like super against Tarantino making this,
Mm.
especially when it was originally supposed to be released on the I think the 50th anniversary of the murders.
Oh my
Mm.
God.
And when I guess Tarantino met with them and explained that he explained the ending that we're not going to end up killing Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring and their
Mm.
friends there. This is going to be a revisionist history story,
Mm.
and they gave their approval. And like their one other request was don't put it on the anniversary, which seems
Yeah.
pretty fucking fair to me.
That has to be an incredibly tough
Um,
day for them.
Somebody had brought about like a couple months ago. Somebody brought up to me that the chance that this is gonna the history is gonna be revised.
Mhm.
This is gonna be an alternative universe. And
Yeah.
once I heard that, I was like, that's exactly what he's fucking doing.
Yeah.
I wasn't spoiled on it, like Tamur was, which that stinks. But kind of to your point, I don't think it takes away from the movie.
Mhm.
The whole the excellence of that scene is the violence itself. Like it's just such fucking overkill. It was like Tarantino was like holding back for so long and like foaming at the mouth. He's like, I
Mhm.
really like telling the story. I really love Hollywood, but I need someone to fucking die right now.
Yeah.
And that's for sure what he did. I legitimately laughed out loud when
Yeah.
Rick Dalton walked out the shed with the flamethrower. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is happening. Like this is
Me
fucking
too.
hilarious.
I shit you not, me too. I was
Yeah.
like, I couldn't help it. I mean, in my head, I was like, why am I laughing so hard? This is like the most fucked up thing I've seen in like a while. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's the over the top nature where it's like, this is just pure like, it's pure Tarantino esque.
Yeah.
When-
Well, it's like, especially with Cliff, like that's when you like think like, oh man, if someone were to bust in right now, that's what I would do. That's like what he actually does.
Yeah.
He fucking like tries to stab, he grabs his arm, then punches the knife and stabs him by punching the knife. Like it's just, yeah, at that point I was just like, all right, like take me where you want to take me, Quentin Tarantino. Like I'm along for this ride. Like obviously him killing that other girl by smashing her head into the telephone and
God,
that
yeah,
was
telephone.
yeah, and with like the little dings like while he does it, it's just like, oh man, that was a lot. But you know what? I understand why I got like a standing ovation at that film festival because presumably, those are all like Hollywood types, very knowledgeable about the history, and the murder of Sharon Tate's probably like a black cloud over Hollywood, especially like older people who were
Yeah.
maybe there for it. So it was probably like a moment of great catharsis for them to watch like her murderers get like murdered in the most fucked up way possible.
Yeah, it got, to be specific, I think it got like a 9 minute standing ovation, just 9 minutes straight of people clapping.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's very telling.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting you bring that up, Brian. I think like one of the quotes, I forget who said it, and I this is not verbatim at all. Somebody said that like when Manson murders happened, when Sharon Tate died was when it was either like the '60s or like
Yeah,
old
1969.
Hollywood died.
Yeah.
Like that was like
Mm,
the quote that like old
that was the
Hollywood,
moment.
the hippie
Yeah.
movement like really died with this also, because you had a bunch of hippies living at Spawn Ranch at an old Western filming area, and um, they kind of went from like these peaceful people, and all of a sudden everybody saw like these
Murderers. Yeah.
Satanists, these murderers, like, and the people that did it were like super fucked up, obviously.
Oh
And
my
I
God. Yeah.
that was the other thing with Tarantino too, is like he's not gonna let this movie for sure was not going to be was not going to display actual events, because that was the thing Tarantino wanted to be like he wanted to mutilate these people, which he did. Um,
Mm.
and I loved it. I laughed out loud when he threw the can at her face.
Oh my God.
I like
Yeah.
I blurted out like laughter. Like her face is just fucking broken. It was also kind of like you knew it was coming too. You knew at some
Yeah.
point that the Tarantino violence was coming.
I'm gonna
And
throw that can.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah, when he didn't open it,
Yep.
just Brad Pitt. That whole last scene is like, I think that might be his best work ever. Like, it's so good. He's so amazing.
very good.
And like,
It's
like
hard
from-
to compare, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and even what you mentioned earlier, Dylan, with this being Leo's best performance, it just shows such a range.
Mm.
I think part of that has to do with him playing an actor, where you have to like it's this double layer of actor playing actor, and then you see like Brian mentioned the struggle of like him, his inner conflict. Actually, I think Brian mentioned this before the podcast. We were just relating to his like, shitting on himself, trying to be like
Yeah.
a better artist. And
Right.
I think every artist feels that way sometimes. And he just, he projects it in such like a funny way, but it's
Yeah.
so relatable.
No, the screaming at yourself in the mirror is a very relatable.
Oh my god, when he's like,
That's-
I love when he's like,
Yeah.
I will,
I'll blow
will
your
shoot
brains out.
blow
Yeah.
your brains out all over that pool tonight.
He's like looking at the camera too.
Yeah.
It's so fucking
Oh
funny.
my God.
Yeah, I mean it's a super relatable argument with himself, especially when he yells out, you had to have eight whiskey sours. Why didn't you stop at 3? You had to have fucking 8.
Yeah, I'm
And he's
never
like, you're
drinking
never drinking
and then
again.
he
You
takes
never
a
drink
sip.
again. Then he takes the swig, dude. It's so good. It's it's even like everything, even like with the when he's filming the TV shows, and I think when he's filming the Lancer show, when he's doing a scene with Timothy Dalton,
Mhm.
Not Timothy Dalton,
That's
Timothy
from the
Olyphant.
elephant. Yeah.
I like for a couple minutes I almost completely forgot what movie I was watching, because I was
Right.
like, and it's something Tarantino does best. He gets you invested in like nothing. He gets you invested in like nonsense.
Yeah.
like, I was sitting there
You're
watching
like,
this
this
movie
doesn't
and-
matter, but this is compelling.
And I was invested in the TV show they were filming. Like I was like
Yeah.
following it like word by word. I'm like, God damn, like this seems pretty good.
Right.
And then-
I would
and
watch
then-
that episode. Fuck yeah.
And then he pulls you out of that trance when Leo forgets his line,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which I thought was just so well done.
Yeah.
I everything with and I think a lot of the biggest complaints of this movie is, one, it's too long, which I think is fair. I don't agree with it, but I think it's a fair argument. I'm never anything under 3 hours. I don't think is too long for a movie. I think a movie at least needs to be over 2 hours for just something like a drama to fully weed out a story.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people also said that he could have cut back on like him filming the westerns, but it kind of adds to everything as a whole, especially that trailer freak out. I think Rick Dalton was arguably maybe Tarantino's most fleshed out character. Like I feel like at the end of this movie, you really knew who Rick Dalton was.
Mhm.
And at the beginning, you see this guy that looks like he was a TV star. He's rich. He lives next to Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
Mhm.
And then you find out that like he's fading. He's an alcoholic. He generally cares about his craft of acting, and he doesn't want to just fade away.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to kind of tuck his tail between his legs and go to Italy to make these spaghetti westerns.
which ironically ended up being like some of the defining movies of
Yeah.
like that time, or the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love the title of one of the movies. It was something like "Who Shot
Oh,
Ringo?"
God.
Instead of
Oh,
Gringo.
oh
Whatever
my
the fucking
god,
title was.
yeah, some of them were so ridiculous. Oh man, that was so good.
And then I like to Margot Robbie, which I don't think she should be really lost in any of this.
Mm.
I thought she did a really good job, like portraying. I don't know Sharon Tate. I didn't know her. Like I never
Yeah,
seen a movie she
right.
was in.
Mm.
But I think his whole point was exactly that. The whole point that she was in this movie throughout the duration is like to show that Sharon Tate was like a real person. She's a
Mm.
Hmm.
person like full of life. She generally cared about. She was rising in Hollywood. Who generally cared um, about being loved, and she seemed like a really
Yeah.
good person. They showed it too when she picks up the girl hitchhiking.
Mm.
She drives her around,
Yeah. Yeah. She's like the only one who cares about the hippies.
which apparently
Yeah.
was a true story also.
Oh well.
So I thought that this was him kind of also saying like we're not going to kill Sharon Tate. This is revised history.
Mm.
But this movie's also going to it's showing like three different facets of Hollywood. Showing Leo, showing Brad Pitt, who's like he obviously wasn't a Hollywood star,
No,
but it
he's
shows
down
his whole
and out
thing.
from the beginning.
And that whole fucking scene with him fighting Bruce Lee,
Mm.
and then
My God.
it ends up cutting back to him being like, oh, okay, like fair enough. Like when he
Yeah.
got kicked off the set, it was just so fucking good. And I like Brad Pitt just played that perfectly.
Yeah, Kurt Russell too, hilarious in
Oh,
that scene.
It's like Bruce Dern in this. Like there's so many people that just are in it for like a scene or two.
Mhm.
It's just, and I think it all like plays back to Tarantino. It's
Yeah.
just it's just perfect.
I think it was a good final role for Luke Perry too. He was good in that scene.
yeah,
Out
Boston.
of that was awesome. Sad, obviously, but
Mm.
still, like he was really good in that. Yeah, like you said, I mean, Quentin Tarantino is just an amazing director, so everyone in this movie is gonna be good. The 9-year-old, whatever, 8-year-old,
Yeah.
she
She
was
was like
great.
one of my favorite. All the parts with her and Leo were just so amazing, and then obviously there's the part in the trailer, which I wish wasn't in the trailer because
Yeah.
it's delivered so perfectly, and like I saw it coming, and I was like, when's that gonna come? It's like the
Yeah.
funniest thing. But it's just such a nice moment, and
Mhm.
honestly, the more we talk about this, I realize how much this is. Yes, it's a revenge film, but it's also just a love letter not only to Hollywood but to Sharon Tate as well. We have these moments of her like going to the movies, and she's portrayed as such like a wonderful spirit, and I do think Margot Robbie did a great job, especially considering she didn't have that many lines. I mean, she's really just she's emanating this sort of this
Positive vibe out there.
yeah, exactly. And you really read that throughout these like it's just like her driving, but you get that sense it's like it's really like understated. But another performance that I really loved, I have to like look up the actress's name really quick. I have it on my phone. Is the Margaret Qualley, who was the hippie who ends up bringing Brad Pitt to the ranch.
Yeah.
She was so unbelievably good and like just like so like specific. Like the things that she would do with like her mannerisms were so good, even though the hippies are portrayed in this like very very poor light.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys think of her performance?
She's great. I think, especially it'd be intimidating and hard. I don't know. Maybe actors don't have this gene, and that's what makes them like actors, or some of them don't. But like sharing so many scenes with Brad Pitt would be very like, oh my god, I really need to bring my A game. She crushed it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, agreed. Another person I want to shout out who I think is like one of the most up and coming actresses in Hollywood is Maya Hawke from Stranger Things. She was only in this for a scene, but I think she's great.
She was.
She was great in Stranger Things. She was great in the 2-minute scene she was here where she was one of the would be killers that ended up just stealing the car and running away. Yeah, it was. For me, like I've seen it twice now, and like I said, Tarantino really just knows what gets me going. But like every scene, I was really just invested.
I thought there was some nice juxtaposition. I don't want to forget to mention this. Obviously, he's living next to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate, and like they're kind of like ships passing in the night in terms of their careers, you know.
Yep.
Like Rick Dalton's on the way out, they're on the come up. I just
Right.
thought that was like a nice, right now in this moment they're sharing the same like road, but
I I
Mhm.
also I love the Great Escape revised scene with Leo instead of Steve McQueen. The
yeah.
Great Escape was like one of the first like old movies I was exposed to, and like I absolutely loved it. And so that was awesome too. That the technology of that too, because I think it was the same like film that was used for A Great Escape, and then they just somehow managed to put Leo into it, and it just
Yeah.
looked like it was looked like that was the actual movie. And it
Yeah.
was awesome, and it just also showed for Rick Dalton like Rick Dalton at one point had a chance to be as big as Steve McQueen because that was the movie that
Right.
really pushed him over the top, and
Right.
it was great. It's like you got inside Rick Dalton's head. It was I like I said, I really loved it. I can't say enough good things about it, and I am totally I'm not defensive of all of how divisive it is. This it's uh, it's not for everyone for sure. But I think if you're in the Tarantino group, it's really tough not to like at least not recognize the good parts of this movie, and to kind of throw away however long it was. However, I mean, people forget like Pulp Fiction too. Pulp Fiction technically doesn't have a story as a whole. It's another day in the life thing that and all the events connect,
Right.
and it's not quite the same as this, but I was here for it. It's a movie I want to see many more times, and it's something I'll probably still keep enjoying. And I'm glad Tarantino has at least one more film left because I'm not ready for this dude to stop making.
I'm not ready for that either, but I just
No.
I would watch movies like this every day, like please someone take up the mantle after Quentin
I don't know.
Tarantino leaves.
I don't think he's gonna stop because I mean
I don't either.
he's said that he's gonna make a Star Trek, but like that can't be his last film. And he just has it, from the sound of it, he has so many other films in mind. Like he wants to make like a Kill Bill spin-off about I don't know her name, but the black girl's daughter, the black woman's daughter who like gets murdered in like the first scene in the first movie. Her daughter like growing up and like getting revenge and stuff like that. He wants to make a film about that. Heard about like other sequels and ideas that he has. Like I kind of doubt he's going to stick to this 10 personally, but
Yeah, I mean, there was a great video on Variety with Leonardo DiCaprio and Quentin Tarantino talking about the character of Rick Dalton, and just like it really makes you want to like step up as a writer when you hear Quentin Tarantino talk about the thought and effort he went about creating this character, and like all the movies like he made Leo watch and all the old TV shows from like the 50s, and he's like, okay, I'm taking this part of this guy for you, and it's like, damn, that is such commitment and such work. I can't imagine he would ever not want to continue doing that. But I don't know.
All right, I think we pretty much said all that needed to be said. I think we're both obviously giving it a go see it.
wait, what did you guys think of Lena Dunham?
She was actually
God.
good.
I
thought she was bad.
I didn't really like. I'm a big anti Liam Dunham guy, but
I don't think she's a good
she was
person
whatever.
necessarily.
She was,
I'm not like anti her. I just thought she wasn't fit for that. But
She was,
anyway,
I think it's really jarring to where she's almost as famous for her acting as she is for just being Lena Dunham,
yeah,
which makes it hard to see someone like that disappear into a role.
Yep.
right. It's kind of like when he had Jonah Hill in was it Django?
Yeah,
It was just so distracting, and it was like
Yeah. Well, he likes putting like a random comedy type person into roles.
That's one thing that I can say about this movie too for Leo is that this is probably maybe the only movie that I watched and I kind of just forgot that was Leonardo DiCaprio on screen. Like I was watching it, I'm like, oh, that's Rick Dalton. I had completely forgot that was Leo, and it kind of just shows and kind of furthers my point that I think that was his best role because he got so into it. And he was just so believable as that person that it was just I don't know. I thought he was just flawless.
Yeah.
Really to end it.
The world building was quite good too in terms of like mixing, the fake reality of bounty law with Rick Dalton with like these real things like FBI and Lancer.
Yeah,
it made it seem so real.
The
Like-
music,
Yeah.
the music in the car, like the posters for the movies, you really felt like you were in the '60s. Like you felt like this was shot in the '60s. Like it looked it looked too good to just be like put like props and stuff put up.
Mhm.
Like it looked great.
That was
Oh,
the
yeah.
first time I had seen Dakota Fanning in anything in a while.
Oh, she
Yeah.
was phenomenal
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Squeaky Fromm.
Yep.
Like
Later went
those-
on to shoot Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. She's
That-
a real
Oh,
bad
God.
person, but yeah, she
Yeah.
was great in that short
But
role.
those like close-ups of her to me were like some of the most Tarantino-esque parts, like
Mhm.
with her dialogue and just like the feel of it was just because like I don't know, like I mentioned earlier, like there was so much of the film where I didn't really feel it was like I didn't feel his imprint beyond like I guess I didn't feel his imprint as much as I have in his past films, which I was missing, and like even some of the like he's kind of known for like putting in these like strange blocks of dialogue that have nothing to do with the story at all, like Pulp Fiction, the beginning of that with the whatever the Burger King conversation, the what is it called?
The Royale with cheese.
Yeah, Royale with cheese, like infamous stuff like that. And I didn't feel like there was a ton of that in this, but there definitely were moments of that, and I thought Dakota Fanning was like one of those key moments.
Yeah, their relationship. Where you like, he does such a good job of building up the tension and drama.
Yeah, the
Yes.
tension in that scene was unbelievable because
Yeah.
it's Tarantino. Like I was fully expecting for Brad Pitt to just be shot.
Die. Yep, me
Yeah,
too.
I
When
was
I
so
first
worried.
saw it, I was like, oh, he's gonna die. This
I
is
like this guy.
terrible.
Like all of the characters, at least the main three are so likable, and you really don't want anything to happen to them.
All right, I think a good way to cap off this episode is to quickly go through a top 5 Tarantino, which is you don't really get to see a Tarantino review a Tarantino movie every day, and I think it's pretty cool to go through his. We won't do all 9, but we'll go through
Right.
his top 5, at least for us. Brian, we'll put the spotlight on you. Why don't you go first?
Would you like me to read all 5 or just my number 5?
Let's go number by number for each person. I'm
Alright,
sorry. So we'll go. You do 5.
Yep.
Tomorrow do his 5, and then I'll
Yep.
do my 5.
All right, so my number 5 is Reservoir Dogs. It's obviously his first movie. It's really like a cool, fun indie movie, and the dialogue is great. The way he, was able to make it on a pretty tight budget from what I've read, and make something so compelling. And I mean, it launched all of this. Without Reservoir Dog, we don't have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Sure don't. Tamur, you're number 5.
All right, so I haven't actually made an official list, so let me just remember all of these. I think number 5 for me is The Hateful Eight.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I've only seen it once. I've seen most of his films more than once. The only one that I haven't seen is Jackie Brown. But I haven't heard like amazing things about it, so I feel like it wouldn't have been in my top 5 anyway. But yeah, Hateful Eight, I just really loved the performance and the performances and the cinematography.
So I would say I don't think Tarantino's ever made a bad movie, not by a long shot. But Hateful Eight's probably at the bottom of my list. But I also like Hateful Eight, so it's a weird weird thing to do. And I don't count Death Proof, whatever that movie was, with Robert Rodriguez and him.
Yeah,
No,
it's a good one,
doesn't
but
count.
yeah,
It kind of falls into his second tier, like Natural Born Killers and From Dusk Till Dawn, where it's like, well, you wrote this, you had a hand in the creation, but this isn't a Quentin Tarantino movie.
actually, you guys should rewatch it. It's really good. Now that I'm like remembering it, like the whole part in the bar where like she dances for him and stuff, like all the dialogue, it's actually very good. Anyway,
my number 5 is Django Unchained. Same thing. I think Django Unchained was actually the very first Tarantino movie I saw in the movie theaters.
Right,
Believe it or not, it was really when I finally found like my appreciation for movies and film. And I think only like several weeks before I had seen Reservoir Dogs for the first time. So I was on like a Tarantino high at the time. Yeah, Django's number 5 for me. I thought Dr. Schultz. I keep forgetting his name, and I feel terrible.
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz. Thank you. Good Lord.
Dr. Schultz.
That was he was unbelievable in that,
Oh,
especially
he's
playing
so
the villain.
great, yeah.
And
He's
in
very
Glorious
good.
Bastards, to see him as a good guy, it was
Mhm.
great. Jamie Foxx was awesome. Our boy Leo was great. Yeah, that's my number 5. Django. Every time it's on,
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Leo was super robbed from winning the Oscar that year. The fact that he turned in that performance, and I know Christoph Waltz won it,
Let's
and
say
yeah,
he lost to Christoph
he's
Waltz.
really good. Leo, like you've never seen Leo as like just a sadistic bad guy before, and
Let loose like
how
that. Yeah, I
convincingly he
agree.
pulled it off. It was like this deserves the award, but I get it. Christoph Waltz, amazing.
I think it's going to be a debate we'll have this year because I don't think that Brad Pitt, and I guess like it's up to people if they think that Brad Pitt should be nominated, but you can't nominate Brad Pitt as a supporting actor. Like he has to be nominated for a lead actor. He's in 50% of this movie when Leo's in the other 50%. You know what I mean? But that should be interesting. I guess I'll go.
I just want to add. I hate Django. I've seen it. I've seen it twice.
Oh, no.
I just can't. I can't get into it. I really don't like it.
Oh no.
I know. I'm sorry.
This is because we
It's at the
almost
bottom of my
died
head.
driving home from Django Tamur. Do you
Did
remember
we?
that? Yeah, it was like a blizzard. And we went to see it in
Oh.
my shitty Honda Civic, and we like were driving
That's
through
so
Holden
funny.
at like 1 mile per hour.
I do remember seeing it with like you and that group,
Yeah.
and like the only one who was like, I really didn't like that. But anyway,
All right, Dan, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Kill Bill Volume 1.
Mm.
I don't count the Kill Bills as one whole movie, mainly because I had to pay separately to buy both of them.
It's fair. It's a fair stipulation.
Yeah, Kill Bill Volume 1, Uma Thurman, shout out mother of what's her name, I'm forgetting her name already, Ethan Hawke's daughter that was in Stranger Things. So him and Uma Thurman's daughter, Maya Hawke, there we go.
Maya Hawke.
Uma Thurman's awesome in this. It's a pure action movie that still has the witty Tarantino dialogue. Tarantino was a big fan of like the 1970 karate movies and stuff, and this was like his homage to that. And I loved it. The first Kill Bill to me is just it's awesome. It's every time it's on, I'm watching it beginning to end. I can't look away. It's so fucking good. And Uma Thurman is so fucking good in it. The action is just perfect. Yeah, Kill Bill number 4 for me. Awesome.
Tamur, you're number 4.
number 4. Right now, I'm gonna say Reservoir Dogs, but it's almost like a tie between that and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But since I just saw it today, I feel like I can't really include it in my top 5. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Reservoir Dogs, which I think was the second film I saw by him as like a high schooler. And oh no, actually, I probably saw it like after Kill Bill. But anyway, saw it in high school. Really like influenced me, and yeah, it's an amazing film.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I just had number 5. At number 4, I have no qualms about putting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as my number 4. Because I saw it on Tuesday, which is long enough for me to...
And you saw it twice.
And I saw it 2 times. I love it. I think it's
Buddy,
gonna
I
be
got
one
a
of my
surprise for
favorite.
you coming up.
What is the surprise coming up?
You'll see.
All
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Inglourious Bastards. I remember, I think this was the first one I saw in theaters of Quentin Tarantino. And just like remembering how awesome it was, and how psyched I was to finally go see like Quentin Tarantino movie in theaters. It's really an incredible film, obviously a revenge film. It's what you wish happened in World War II. And, Brad Pitt turns in a phenomenal performance. Obviously, you already said, everyone already knows, Christoph Waltz, a career-making performance in terms of English-speaking films.
Yep.
And yeah, man, I just love that. What about you, Tamar? What's number 3?
I agree. Inglourious Basterds is my number 3 as well, for basically the same reasons. To me, it's like the perfect balance between like the Tarantino ball to the wall scenes. Like the ending is just so epic, but it also has those moments of like quiet build up, and the not only once you have the introduction, which is just so like skillfully done. Like it's hard to even compare to anything to it. And then it goes to like the scene in the bar with the
I was about to say, I actually just watched that today because I was like thinking about how good that is.
It's so good, and it's just like that film is just so well rounded, and I was like considering it being my number 2, but I'll get back to that later. How
Yeah.
about you,
It has,
Dylan?
well, I just want to say it has
Oh,
Auf
okay.
Wiedersehen to your Nazi balls. How could you not have that in your top 5?
Exactly.
Sorry, Dylan. What is your number 3?
No, my number 3 spot is also Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, whoa!
You can't really add anything other than amusing to your Nazi balls, but yeah, no, that tavern scene, how much that like slowly unravels and the tension in that,
Oh
the
my
build
God.
up is arguably maybe Tarantino at his best in filmmaking. It's just how that's shot and the whole thing, like it gets so in detail how like Germans put the 3 up like this, they don't put it up like
Yeah.
this. Like it's just I think it's like a 15-minute scene too.
Yeah.
It's and like you said, the first scene, which is probably the most notorious scene from that movie. Just the build up and tension it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's just so well done. It's just you feel like you're sitting at that table in that bar, like you're just like, what the fuck is going to happen? This is so nerve wracking. Yeah, number 3 for me is Inglourious Bastards.
That was my introduction to Michael Fassbender as an actor, I think.
I was about to say that's probably the first movie I saw him in, also.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good. Like, so
Yeah.
made me really excited to see X-Men First Class that came out pretty soon after that. I recall. All right, so Dylan, are you up again for number 2 in the snake draft?
I sure am.
Tarantino pick.
My number 2 is the movie we just talked about for an hour, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
I give it a 97 out of 100. I think it's the best movie I've seen in like 5 years. Sort of a hot take, but I'm like obviously incredibly high on this movie right now.
Right, yeah.
I've seen it twice. Going to see it at least one more time in theaters. I've already said all I need to say about it. It's number 2 for me. It's a beautiful film. I fucking love it.
Yeah. All right, Tamur, what about you?
I feel like I see where this is going, at least as far as what Oliver number 1 is going to be. But my number 2 is Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. I am not above lumping them together.
Bullshit.
It's so hard to pick one because they both have such amazing. I mean, I guess if I had to prefer one or the other, it would be the first one. But the first one is just so good, and it has that fucking anime scene, which when I saw that as a kid, like blew my goddamn mind. That I think that actually, so my dad like rented us that on DVD. We watched it, and I was like, that was insane. Like one of the most violent films I'd seen at that age, but also like one of the best. And so influential to me as like a young filmmaker making like movies with my friends. And then he took us to see Volume 2 in theaters, and like I distinctively recall me and my brothers like sitting toward the front, my dad sat like in the back, and they like came over and they were like, you guys shouldn't be here, this movie's like too violent, you guys are, what the fuck are you kids doing here? We were like, no, it's all good. Like our dad brought us here, and I was just like, yeah, this is like not a kids movie, but loved it so much.
Hey, those are some major cool dad points right there.
Yeah.
Oh man, so my number 2 is Django Unchained. He almost was the last movie I ever saw on the ride back. I really enjoyed it. I just love tales of revenge, and like I guess the ultra violence doesn't dissuade me either. Jamie Foxx, probably his coolest role in my opinion. Seeing Leo as a sadistic slave owner monster when like I've never really seen him as anything else as like the hero or romantic lead, in anything. And yeah, Christoph Waltz's performance also good, not as good as Leo's, but we'll just throw that out there.
I think the Academy,
like in it less too.
Yeah, what was that? Tamur?
I think the Academy would think differently.
Yeah. Well, me and the Academy are usually on the same page. We were not on that. They didn't consult me. I should have won that. Oh, man. All right, so am I up for number 1?
Sure are.
So, Pulp Fiction is my number 1.
What?
Wait, really?
Yeah, I really love Pulp Fiction. I think it was a movie that, for me, I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, you're allowed to do this? Like, you're allowed to write weird storylines of the times, like, all out of sync, and, like, it doesn't really make sense or pay off to the end. Like, this is something that you can actually do in real Hollywood. And I just remember being really excited by that, and just it made me feel like that the world of like movies was super open, and the world of like creativity was really, there in his movies. So, yeah, Pulp Fiction's my number one.
Yeah, this is kind of what I predicted. Pulp Fiction is also my number one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what else can I say? Like, I mean, I could talk about it forever. Is what I'm
right.
trying to avoid. It's one of,
We should do
in my
a we
opinion,
should do a podcast where we just talk about it. So in case we ever can't record one week, we can just throw it up.
yeah, I'd be down for that. In my mind, it's one of the greatest films of all time. It's like everything up to Pulp Fiction. In my mind, as far as like even just American cinema, like adds up to it. You know, you have like these classic moments in cinema that are just like so singular and so like iconic. And I mean, even if if you haven't seen it and you're watching it for the first time, I feel like you can even feel that. You watch it and you're just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like the writing is just so snappy, so like so well performed by everyone, like all around. And it's just so, it plays with like filmmaking in such a fun way. Yeah, let me stop there because I could go on forever.
Dylan, what's your number one?
Yeah, my number one movie is Hateful Eight. No, my number one movie is Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction's my all-time favorite movie. It's a 99 out of 100 for me because there's no such thing as 100 out of 100. But yeah, Pulp Fiction was the very first Tarantino movie I saw. I saw Pulp Fiction maybe when I was like 10, maybe. Yep. And then I kind of I saw like kind of sneaking around when my parents were watching Kill Bill. I snuck around and like managed to hide and watch the entire movie Kill Bill after Pulp Fiction.
That's awesome.
And like obviously I didn't really appreciate it then, and as I got older, I much more appreciated these movies. And Pulp Fiction always just stuck out to me. Kind of what Tamur said. There's like several iconic scenes in cinema history as a whole in this movie. The way that Tarantino, I guess like the meaning of pulp, and I think it says at the beginning of the movie, like the pulp is like it's nothing. It's just like it's like just nothingness. And this movie is basically it's a day in the life in L.A. About these gangsters and this boxer and this gangster's wife. And just the way he tells the story and like just jumping through time when we open with Vincent and Samuel L. Jackson. Sorry, I'm completely drawing a blank on names right now. I just said it's my all-time favorite movie. Jules.
Yeah,
that we jump from that, and then we get to Vincent and Mia going to the old style diner, and she obviously ODs, and that whole fucking scene, like that's like it's just so goddamn intense. It's just so out of nowhere too. There's so many things in this movie that are just so out of nowhere. Yeah. And the Mia Wallace ODing the first time I saw it. Then even the second time when I like sort of like forgotten about how much happened in that movie when I saw it when I was older. It's just so wild. Just like this is the movie. It's just like their daily life and like the shit that's going down. This is the movie. And then the next scene we see is Bruce Willis's character like throwing this fight and John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson being hired to go kill him. And then after that whole thing fucking spirals out of control to them going to Bruce Willis hitting Ving Rhames with his car, and then as they're chasing through the streets of LA, you wind up in the basement of a pawn shop that they're being held with a gimp and a sex slave as a guy named Zed and all that. It's just a fucking wild movie.
Oh my God,
but it's just it's just so unbelievably well done. And then you see John Travolta get killed and you're like shit. Like I like Vince. Yeah. That was great. Yeah. And then what do you know after the Bruce Willis chapter is over? We get John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson again. Yeah. And then we also get introduced to the opening scene, which of them holding up the diner. And I don't know. It's as perfect as a movie as you can get without being completely perfect for me, honestly. It's like I said, it's my favorite movie. Can't really say any more than that. I'm just been all flustered just talking about
have to do a standalone podcast where we just gush about how good Pulp Fiction is for 3 hours.
3.5 breakdown of like scene by scene of
Yeah,
it.
it's gonna be a Joe Rogan experience like level in terms of how long it is.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, is there anything else we want to touch on before we wrap this one up?
I'm good. Brian, Tamur, thank you for hanging in there for a technologically difficult episode, but this is probably my favorite podcast we've done so far. I really
this is
enjoyed
really
talking
fun.
Tarantino.
I mean, like I said, we could just do all of them. Why not? We just have them banked up and make it a series. The three of us talking
All right, so
Tarantino.
for the next 9 weeks, we're doing Tarantino movies.
Only. So sorry guys if you wanted us to talk Hobbs and Shaw, but I am not seeing that movie. So there's nothing
I've actually been meaning to rewatch Inglourious Bastards, and I do need to see Jackie Brown. So if this is the real plan, I'm very down.
Right, Dylan, you're really gonna see Hobbs and Shaw?
Yes.
Oh,
I think you are too.
What? We are not reviewing that movie.
Shout out Brian Wong, our premium Patreon listener. He's very much looking forward to this movie, so we can't
at least go see Midsommar. I know Dylan, you saw it, but Brian, just go see that. Yeah. That's a much more interesting film. I haven't even seen Hobbs and Shaw, but
it'll be two. What the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
One because it was literally what the fuck was that? That one would be like, wow, that was bad.
Dylan, I have gone most of my life without watching a Fast and the Furious movie. Did not make me.
I think that's more exciting though. You're gonna be just blown away by just the action, just the absurdity.
Oh God! All right. Well, this is our fate, guys. This is what we do for YouTube. So you better tell your friends to subscribe to this podcast because I'm doing it for you.
Yes. or else we're gonna start starving Brian. Every 10 subscribers we don't get a week, Brian is starved for 10 days. So
all right, that's fair enough. All right, Dylan, where can they find you?
DJ Cloverlang with 2 B's at twitter.com. Twitter, the place where dreams are made. Twitter.
Right. And Tamur, your Instagram, anything you want to plug?
I guess if you're interested, I do have an Instagram, which is my full name, at Tamur Kutab, and but otherwise, just subscribe to our YouTube channel, please.
Please do it. We work hard on all these videos. You can find me on Twitter at TheFakeBMar. That's BMARR. Find the channel on Twitter at WG Everything, on Instagram at Wicked Everything, of course on Twitch, even though we don't really stream much anymore, at twitch.tv/Wicked Everything. If you're listening to iTunes, subscribe on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go to iTunes, subscribe. And thanks. Thank you so much for watching.
I don't want this to be forgotten. We need to open like a GoFundMe for the Gilbert Gottfried.
Right. Well, we need
shout out.
Yeah, we need to set on the show name. I think we have it now.
So I don't want people to think that's been forgotten because I sure haven't.
Right. Oh man. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.